going to get this because we rock. We're amazing. We're amazing. And welcome to another episode of the Influencers Connection Corner. I am so excited to be here today. As you all can see, I'm not in my normal, grounds, but we'll get as to why into that later. For now, I really want to leave you with, or I would like to start actually, our day, our episode, this fantastic episode with a quote by Miss Sonita Reese that she loves this quote by Mokokoma Mokonwana. I hope I said that correctly. The wise rest at least as hard as they work. Wow. That to me, it took me a second to really, kind of chew it up, let it marinate and really internalize it. But it is it's a short quote, but it's extremely powerful. What are your thoughts, Sia?
Uh,
Repeat this one?
there's like other sayings, like there's, no rest for the wicked, right? But it's like the opposite, right? Like for like all living things, you need time to work, obviously, to develop yourself, to grow, but you also have to give your literal physical embodiment of what you are time to relax and rest. And you're doing it right now, and I'm sure we'll talk about in a second, but we forget.
Absolutely.
I'm notorious for that. I get it, and it's kind of hitting home because everyone, you got to rest yourself, your soul, in
Yes.
order to grow.
Absolutely. And now, especially this month, August is known as the National Wellness Month. So definitely brings in forefront as a reminder. It should be a daily reminder to pause and take breaks, small breaks, whatever is needed, especially as leaders. We embody so many things. We internalize so many things from our teams, because we care, we lead with empathy. But definitely, August is National Wellness Month, and it needs to be at the forefront as a reminder. So, with that said, let's go ahead and run the intro and get this party started.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Influencers Connection Corner.
Hey, and dance, and dance, and dance, and dance. Oh my God. I know Sunita's in the back jamming. She's like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. This is what life is about. This is what it is. We work hard. We must play hard as well. So you alluded to it. You see a little tan. I have a tan.
I
I've been
am
having
envious, my friend.
Well, 6 months ago or so, we were having fun as well, prancing around in Florida, somewhere about. But yes, and for me, this is such a significant time of just spending time with my girls. It's actually, let me share with if they haven't seen the actual post that I made this morning, my daughter's first time being on a plane, flying, was this past week, and it was such an amazing moment for me to be able to build those memories and create those memories with my daughters, and just watching them, the simplicity of the plane taking off and then landing and their amazement, and they were just so excited. So to me, those moments they were forever live in my brain. So this is what it's about, right? We work hard. I worked hard all the summer. They were with me. They were patient. And I'm like, all right, before they go back to school, I need to be able to give something back to them, something that they will always remember, and further creating the bond. And so for my wellness month kind of pledge to myself, I told myself I will be doing more things, more inclusive things, more explorative things with them. And so so I say all of that to say we are living the Orlando magic, and took them to Universal Studios. And my God, wow! When I tell you my feet are still numb, it is not a lie. It's amazing. You've been here, right?
No, no, I
Oh,
haven't. I mean, obviously,
okay.
I've been to Disney World, right, with you, but no, I've not been to
Mhm.
Universal. I've never gone to a theme park. Anytime I've been was for work, and so it's not like they're like going to pay for tickets for us to, holiday or anything like that. So
Right, right.
yeah,
And so
I
for
don't
me, like
envy
I
your
said,
feet, girl.
no, that was the only drawback. But I'm like, you know what? It was worth it. My girls had so much fun. They were exposed to so many things. And it was not only for them. That was my first time too. it was my first time going to Universal, Islands of Adventure, and we still have a few more things to explore. But I'm just super excited that to have this opportunity to be able to get away from our normal, leadership roles that we have. Thanks to you, Sia. Thanks to Janice. Thanks to Jody. Thanks to Chris. So many wonderful individuals who are rallying around me and my girls to be able to live and lead a better quality of life. So thank you all. I
Yes.
appreciate you. And talking about leading, oh my God. I'm over here getting, texts from Miss Anita and I'm just so flattered. Talking about flattering though, this first time I met Sonita, she was just an amazing, amazing soul, just giving it all, helping teams, helping leaders. This is her emphasis and focus. So I know I'm talking about her, so I'm going to make her blush a little bit more on camera. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Miss Sonita Reese up to the stage. Yay!
All right. Oh, wait. I got to do the obligatory,
Yes. Yes. Here you are, Miss Sonita. Hi.
Good morning. Good morning.
Happy morning to you. I'm so happy to have you here. This has been a long time coming. I was just like, when Sonita said she was available, I'm like, I'm jumping at that. It will be an honor to have you.
No, the
on
honor
here.
is mine. Rocky
I-
and Sia together. This is fun. This is not an obligation. This is an honor and fun. Thank
yes.
you
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about what you do for leaders, what you do for teams, what you do for visionaries. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself, Sonita.
Yeah, for sure. So growing up as a third culture kid between Southeast Asia and the United States, I was always fascinated by culture and how people relate, and also just intrigued by the way we could come with different angles to approach the same problems. And I thought I would take that to serve people by going to work either at the United Nations or as a diplomat. But I had an experience in college as I was working to get my foreign affairs degree. Detect the theme there, right? I had an experience in college that involved me spending 6 months back in the Philippines that woke me up to the way that business could solve problems beyond just creating money. And that led me into the world of business consulting, which kicked off an 18-year career for me in the corporate world that included things like leading teams of 2 to 20, helping build a partnership function for a conservation nonprofit, and working in corporate marketing for a billion-dollar company. So, okay, so what, right?
Mm-hmm.
During that time, like many people who may have been in the corporate space or perhaps still are, I had a lot of rich experiences, but I found myself repeating cycles of stress and what I later came to understand was burnout. I didn't know it at the time, but I would experience constant cycles of being exhausted, struggling not only to find time for my relationships, including my husband and my kids, but sleep. For about 20 years, I averaged like 3.5 to 4 hours of sleep. I would get sick. I'd experience weight gain even when I wasn't necessarily eating a whole lot. And then I had a wake-up call, and it came in a really terrible way. While I was driving, I fell asleep with one of my 2 young sons in the back seat. And thank God nobody got hurt. But it really shook me up because I realized not only could I gloriously crash and burn, but I could take down the people that I cared about the most with me. So that led me and woke me up to start to just make some changes. And in 2015, I jumped off the corporate bullet train and stumbled very awkwardly into the world of entrepreneurship to, use my Well, I wouldn't say it was really a stumbling, honestly. Happy to share that story another time, but it wasn't like a big epiphany. I've got this clear problem I solve and who I help and a business idea. But really my motivation was, let's use the talents and skills I have to earn money and serve like I always wanted to, but to serve my family too, and to take care of my health, which had suffered a
Mhm.
lot in those 18 plus years. So fast forward, that experience and then learning really how I could serve best has led me to what I do now, which is
Mm.
to help entrepreneurial leaders build their teams and their businesses without burnout so that they can not only see profit in their bank account, but in their life account.
I love that. Profit in their life account.
Yeah.
Wow. That I think that is the first time that I ever hear this, and it's going to be ingrained in my brain from now, because it's so powerful. So many times we focus so much on the, yes, we gotta, hustle, hustle, hustle to attain what we want, as what we consider success. But in the journey of doing that, we really just burn out and put ourselves out there without any regard. So that I loved what you said there, Sunita. For
Yeah.
sure. Mhm.
And, Rocky, you said we hustle. And yes, I think we as a society, in the world, but I think especially in the Western world, in the United States, we have this, I'm going to call it a false belief. Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. And I hope we can really dive into rest, not just as, hey, it's for wellness but why it's so critical to business success, not as well as life success. But we have this belief that work and life are separate. And, we talk about things like work-life balance. And I'm here to tell you, I searched for that for years and it doesn't exist. Bold statement, I know, right? So let me unpack that. Like,
Yes.
imagine I asked you, Rocky, I said, hey, give me your kidney. Don't worry, it won't hurt. Imagine we've got some magic formula where I can just take your kidney out and there's this scale standing in front of me. And I'm going to put your kidney on one side of the scale. And then I'm going to ask you to stand on the other side of the scale. Is there any way possible that those two things can balance?
No.
No. And yet, that is how we approach work-life balance. We think that work and life are separate when if both of you went poof and ceased to exist right now, your work would disappear. Work is something
Wow.
that comes out of us and is part of us. And yet we have this false belief as a society that we can treat it like an IKEA table where it's modular and we can just put it off to the side and make things balance. And so, I really am very passionate about learning to not only just do this for myself, but flipping the script on work-life balance to one of more on work-life integration, which doesn't mean that we all go off and play a harp or all dangle our feet in a pool at will, which
That
is
would be
great.
nice, though, but I
It
know.
would be nice, but it's really flipping the script on this idea that we are indispensable and irreplaceable as humans. And so to do our best work and to live our best lives, we have to understand that work is something that comes out of us, just like that kidney. It is not something that's like that IKEA table leg that can just be put off to the side and exist on its own.
Oh my God. Do y'all see why I love this woman? The sound advice and wisdom that just comes out magically. And it really, you internalize those messages. And it's important though, right? Because the way you paint the scenario, Sonita, it's vivid. It hits us. It's relatable because we all go through that in our daily basis, lives, work, professional, personal, whichever. But yes, yeah.
It's the
100%.
intentionality of it, right? I mean, it's living an intentional life. We
Yes.
get into our routines where we're on coast mode and not even realizing that we're not really living anymore. And I could listen to you all day, Sunita. First off, your voice. Like there's something to be said about hearing and I've got my gravelly voice as I'm saying it. But there's something about uh when you speak, like people genuinely listen. And in leadership, the tone matters. Like I get it. I sound like a man right now, but your tone matters and it matters to how you
Yeah,
speak to
it
others as
does.
well as your own self. That internal voice as well. I mean, how do you if you know you're running on empty and you're running dry, like what are the first things that you do when you realize this is happening? And what would you
Oh,
suggest for others?
I love that question. And first, I'm going to say the trick is kind of like your car. If you know you're running on empty, it's already too late, right? Um,
Mhm.
so let's unpack that a little bit, and also I just want to say this is also you said living intentionally, right? I'm practicing what I'm about to share even yesterday because I was a little low and I could catch it in my shorter messages to my kids and being more irritated. And so I think one of the first things to do is to understand like you at your best versus you when you're starting to fray a little bit. And is it okay if I offer you all a framework that I've started to use to help me do this? So this
Please.
one, yeah, this one isn't the quick like count to five and everything's magical, but it's one that's really helped me try to live with intention and then understand when things are off balance. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to give you a quick overview, and then if it's great with maybe some questions from the audience or questions from you all, I'll unpack each of the five things. Is that okay with everybody?
Fantastic for me.
Okay, awesome. So I've dubbed this work alive, right? Because I think probably everybody on this live stream right now cares about their work and wants to do work that matters, right? Work is amazing and it's part of an expression of who we are. But like we talked about earlier, it is part of us. It is not separate from us. So alive is an acronym, and A stands for align with purpose. L is live your values. I is identify your boundaries. V is verify your seasons. And E is embrace rest and recreation, or embrace rest and recovery. So, real quick, I'm going to unpack that. Stop me if you have questions at any time, okay? So, align with purpose. Now, if you have a life purpose you know that you're in pursuit of, check in with that. But if you don't, that's totally cool. Your purpose might be making it through your grad school program. Your purpose might be seeing how you can increase your income by a certain number of dollars because you're trying to achieve a financial goal. Your purpose might be trying to see how you can continue to work while also caring for aging parents, right? It can.
Mhm.
Oh yes, I think
The
probably
sandwich generation, right?
the sandwich generation, but align with purpose. And here's why purpose is so important, whether it's a grand life purpose or something to focus, because we follow what we focus on. Okay. Our bodies tell us that. I was doing a little Pilates, and this amazing instructor said, it was like, follow your hand when you do this. And she said, here's why, because the body will follow your gaze. And so align with
Oh,
purpose. Keep your purpose in front of you physically, and be aware, because your body, your behavior, your work will follow your gaze. Okay, so that's
Oof, I
A,
love that.
align with purpose.
taking notes here.
Yes. Two, live your values, right? And to first live them, you have to understand what they are. So we won't get into that now, but you asked me, how do I try to prevent myself from getting to empty and, kind of like wearing down like I was yesterday when I was snipping at my sweet, sweet kids? Know your values and ensure you're living out of them. One of my values is whole person success, which is being healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I'm training for something. I'm training for a marathon right now, and had been done a workout yesterday. And recovery is really important right now in that training, and I hadn't gotten enough of it. And that's where I was starting to wear down. So it was kind of a cue to me, like, doesn't mean I need to sleep more necessarily or any of those things, but it was a cue. Like, I've got this goal. I'm putting some inputs or deducting out of this bank account, which is my energy reserves. How can I replenish those energy reserves so I can be my best? And my kids don't have to sit there and go, "Ooh, we got to stay away from mom today," right? So L, live your values, understand what they are, get practical, and I mean practical, and then make sure you're living them in practical
Wow.
ways. Um,
Mhm.
I identify your boundaries. So this is one that I am really still unpacking. Here is the thing. I don't know. I'm curious. When I say boundaries, what comes up for you? What do you think of when I say boundaries?
Well, for me, Sunita, I'm glad you asked that. I've always struggled with boundaries because I'm a recovery people pleaser. And so for me to say no, it's been really difficult because I feel like I'm letting other people down. However, in the last few years, I've been doing that internal work, and I'm like, you know what? No, we're gonna reframe that, and it's honoring myself. That no, it's honoring myself, saying I respect me, I respect what my boundaries are, and where my limit is. So I've reframed that, but it took a long time to establish boundaries for me.
Yeah. How about you, Sia? What comes up when you hear the word boundaries?
Well, I clearly don't know how to set them. So this is like hits home for me because I am a people pleaser, but I'm also a short attention spanner. So I go after that dopamine rush oftentimes where I don't respect my boundaries to know chasing that butterfly at that moment in time and take on more butterflies to chase after is a challenge. It's no two ways about it. That's probably my biggest challenge I have. Do I think of like a wall? I feel like I don't have a wall for me to realize I need to bounce and keep myself in the perimeter, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So you two and me, like, we're not alone. So in the last several decades, there's been a massive deterioration of boundaries, right?
mhm.
Just in general. Some of them are deterioration of natural boundaries where maybe we followed more common holidays and things like that that set up natural rhythms and times when people were doing things and weren't doing things. So we live in this incredible world where we have access to information and people 24/7 and we're connected 24/7. But that's not necessarily healthy without this corresponding idea of boundaries. So I see, Sincere said, boundaries are not, yeah, I love that, not walls, but gates. Here's the principle that I've come to understand boundaries operate on. And principles are powerful because they work no matter the situation or scenario, right? Just like with an airplane, the law of thrust works all the time because it's a principle. But
Hmm.
the principle is one of protection, protecting what's good, keeping the good
Mhm.
in, and keeping things in and keeping things out. I'll intentionally not say good or bad for
Okay,
certain
I
reasons.
love that. Hmm.
All right. But when it comes to working alive, right, living this out as a leader in your business, in your home, with whatever area of influence you are, identifying boundaries is even more crucial because it's not naturally done anymore in
Yes.
general, right? Like we get irritated when, what do you mean I can't get this? It's 11:50, 10:59. They say they close at 11. We're irritated by boundaries, right? And yet they're so crucial. And not just to make ourselves like our energy, but the science when that has been done around work, especially with businesses, um, or any professional, when they're focusing on core things within certain blocks of time, they get more done progressively than
Yes.
people who are constantly task switching. And so we could go down this conversation for the next 45 minutes. I won't do
Hmm.
that, but I'll say, if you don't already have some boundaries, not just like, see, a good place to start is with your values. If you say, hey, being healthy and fit is one of my values, what boundaries do I need to put in place to enable that? Perhaps
Mm.
it might mean something very simple, like you always take Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights for that. You don't go to happy hours. You don't, say, oh, I can do that last minute work thing. I'm giving you an example, but that is just a very practical way of how boundaries can support your, not just your health, but your ability to work alive and just be progressively impactful, not just busy.
I love that. Work alive. Yeah, amazing.
People
Go ahead,
confuse. I
Yeah.
Serena.
think people like I know
Yeah.
people confuse being busy with being productive. And I am notorious for that as well. So I'm speaking from experience. And this hustle and bustle culture. Now I think this is American thing, because when I've traveled elsewhere, let me tell you, I believe the rest of the world in a lot of different ways has a better quality of life
Mm.
because there is an understanding of, holiday means holiday, right? In Europe,
Mhm.
like they're gone, like they're now slowly but surely coming back, right? Americans don't have that mentality. Why do you think we have that need to always be on, and we don't take vacations, for example?
Oh, I would love to dive into that. So why do we think we always need to be on and we don't take vacations? Is it okay with you if I come back to that and I finish going through the Alive framework? Because I
Sure,
said I'd do that for
Mm.
the audience. Is that
Yeah.
cool?
Yes,
do it,
Okay.
do
yes.
it.
So we were on ALI. So align with purpose, live your
Mm.
values, identify your boundaries. V, verify your season. Seasons. I say it with a plural because my experience has framed for me, and as I've tested this with others, it seems to frame for others that we kind of all have three seasons. One is the season of life we're in. So, for example, if you're just starting out, let's say you're going to college this month, right? This is amazing. It's an exciting time for you. Your season of life is very different than the season of life Raquel, I, and Sia are in, right? So there's the season of life that you are in general, based roughly on your journey through life and age, right? But let's just leave it at that. Then the second part of that is the season of the year we find ourselves in. Why do I say that? Because each season of the year brings certain rhythms and often certain kind of obligations and impacts, especially with business, whether it's the summer or leading up to the holidays. So be aware of your season of life, the season of the year, especially as how it might be hitting your business, and then the season of your most important unit. What do I mean by that? For me, that's my family, right? So I have a competitive athlete who's 14, and his really, really busy times are the fall and the spring. And that brings certain opportunities and restrictions and requirements that impact what I do. Now, your most important season might be your work team, for example. And if you work for an accounting firm that does taxes, hey, you all know whether you're the tax accountant or not, probably nobody's taken a vacation, between March and April 15th or later,
Mhm.
right?
For
So
sure.
so your unit. So verify your season. This is a quick check. What season of life I'm in? Like, I'm married, I have kids. Thank God all my parents and my parents and in-laws are alive. But there are certain things. Know your season, know the season of the year, and then know the season of your unit, because this is going to help you be more intentional, which is really what working alive is all about. So last but not least, embrace rest and recreation, or embrace rest and recovery. I'm exceedingly not just passionate about this one, but convinced that if leaders would truly dive into this and flip their understanding of rest as a nice to have and more as an essential, we would just see an incredible change in corporate culture, including, Sia, what you mentioned. Why do we feel we need to always be on? So I'm just going to leave you with two thoughts on embrace rest and recovery. One, the most many of the most successful people are some of the most invested in their rest and recovery. I'll just give you one example. LeBron James, right? Whether you love basketball or not, whether you like him or not, you can't deny that he is an incredible athlete and is performing at a level that many people his age cannot perform. And he credits it to his multi-million dollar investment in recovery. Okay. If you're
Wow.
interested in that, I can send you a link. There was a conversation he had with, his trainer had with Tim Ferriss that unpacks this. So,
Mm,
how does
nice.
that apply to you and me? I'm putting it in our little private
I
chat.
love how resourceful Sonita is. You
Um,
guys, come on. She's definitely helping us.
But where it counts to use, you might be, don't be overwhelmed by this, right? If resting and recovery, if R&R, you're like, I don't have time. I'm going to challenge you with that one statement and say, you may not have time not to rest. Years ago, an executive said to me in Barcelona when we were there for a trade exhibit, he wanted me to come out and do something. And I said, hey, I can't, he's like, hey, you can sleep when you're dead. Like, he wanted me to have this experience of meeting people. It came out of a good place. But I told him, I'm gonna get dead a lot faster if I don't sleep,
Oh
because
my
this was
gosh, yes.
because I had been exhausted for a long time. So first of all, I would challenge you, if you think you don't have time to rest, I'm gonna challenge you to say that you don't have time not to.
I'm
So
Yeah.
guilty of that.
no guilty. It's
Yeah.
an awareness. I want to release people from feeling guilty about it. Our culture doesn't support it, right? Our culture doesn't support it. But that's why when I go work alive, align with purpose, live your values, identify your boundaries, verify your seasons, and embrace rest and recovery, those are all active verbs, because it starts with an initial awareness and identification, but then it's about practice and adaptation. So
Mhm.
I could go on forever. I won't, but that's the work alive framework, and one of the tools I use when I start to find myself, kind of spiraling a little bit by getting snippy, being
Mhm.
unmotivated, and things like that.
Oh well, let me tell you, I get snippy most of the time. When, because as a single mom, as a single parent, it's difficult sometimes to balance everything out, and you're operating already at a half of a battery starting your day because you haven't gotten your rest or you haven't prioritized this and that. So it's sometimes it's very impossible to get to that rest unless we learn to make it a priority, and that's a non-negotiable. But it's difficult, right?
It's hard. It's hard. And so back to Sia's question, like, why do we feel like we need to be always on, um, and can't take vacations? I'm going to put a little bit of a frame around how I answer that question. And when I say we, here on this conversation, we're Gen X, right? So let me just speak on behalf of Gen Xers, right? Like, we grew up with a lot of uh, opportunity, I would say, but there was also a message. There's this narrative, subconscious and unspoken narrative for many of us, that was, do well in school. Why? So you can go to a good college. Why? So you can get a good job. Why? So you could make a good career that would lead you to retirement, and then maybe you could relax along, after that. Oh, and maybe along the way, you get married, have 2 kids, and buy a house. But you probably want to buy a house because that's part of doing well after retirement. Does
Mm,
that
mm.
unspoken narrative resonate with you too?
Oh yes.
100%. And
Yes.
Okay.
and here's where I think you're mentioning that. I think it's really interesting because, or maybe I'm just watching too many YouTube short videos, but that is a life path journey that we as Gen X have been beat down to. This is definition of success. And I think these subsequent generations uh, have seen the success or not, or lack thereof, because right now, financially, a lot of these kids cannot and do not make anywhere near the earning power that we did when we were their age. Right. And it's
Yeah.
almost like we are teaching people, the next generation, about something that may or may not be attainable. And it's for various reasons. And we don't have to go, deep into it. I didn't make my
Right,
tinfoil
right.
hat today, so we won't go down that path.
Okay.
But it's that idea, though, that with what you're talking about with Alive, right? Um, I think more people need to hear it now more than ever for different reasons. And that's why I think it's so cool that you've put this together, because Sunita, it matters and it applies differently. Same, framework, but hits differently from a different perspective because the needs are different for each group. So anyway, it's just me kind of going off in a little generational rant, but
Yeah,
Mm.
I
and
love
I
it.
don't want to say it's only linked to Gen X, but Lorena had a really insightful comment, which is that rest is equal to laziness, and for certain generations, it's like we didn't want to be viewed as lazy. And Sincera says we've been taught to be on the hamster wheel. It's true. The culture says be busy. We celebrate getting a degree, but not necessarily getting results from that degree, or
Mm,
changing
Yes.
people's lives because of the degree you pursued or the degree you opted out of so you could go make an impact, right? And some of that, this is not my idea. I got clued into it by reading a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, which is a super powerful and I think exciting book because it flips the script on so much of these norms that have led to a lot of this very unhealthy situation we find ourselves in. And that the thing that I'm about to share with you is that, we operate on this concept in the work world and the business world of factory time, which came up with the rise of the industrial age and the 9 to 5, right? So you were there from 9 to 5 after reforms were put into place to provide healthier working conditions, because they were making people work a lot harder and longer than that. 9 to 5, you would produce these widgets and then you would go home. Well, look at how a lot of education operates. It's kind of a 9 to 5 mentality. You're in blocks of hours or half hours from a certain time to a certain time, and then you're released. So we've kind of been conditioned into this factory mentality of time, when so much of what we do, I would say, I know for the three of us, right, in our professions, requires creativity, innovation, and focuses on results, not just spending time doing maybe one thing over and over again to produce a widget. So we've got this factory time that's spilled over into the working world, but it's an insufficient condition for the work we have to do, but we keep trying to force fit things in there. And, some of that, Sia, you mentioned chasing butterflies and switching from one thing to the next. I know that, the ADD and ADHD are very real things, but I would submit to you all that part of this dissonance between the factory time mentality and the reality of what we do contributes to that, because we switch tasks in a lot of the working world so frequently. And the research shows, I think it's like an average of, say, 17 minutes of productivity are lost every time you switch a task, because of the cognitive transfer and the impact on your ability to kind of get things done. So back to your question, like, why do we feel we need to be always on? Because we live in this incredible world with a lot of opportunity and amazing connections that technology affords us, but it's taken down boundaries. And so we can be always on. Many years
Yes.
ago, we couldn't be
Yes.
always on. Like, if it got dark, certain things were not available to you. You had to go to a corner store to use a payphone, so you couldn't connect with somebody. So we feel like we have to always be on, because we can be, I believe, because of this factory mentality of time, combined with the lack of boundaries. And so we try to squeeze work into wherever we feel we can to be, quote unquote, more productive, instead of understanding that we are more effective when we're
Yes.
taking a different approach. And that's why I believe that we have this kind of subconscious pressure to be always on, especially maybe for the Gen Xers and the elder millennials, because
Yes.
the Gen Zers are opting out of that stuff. So
Yeah. I
There's
mean, they have
wisdom in
adopted
that.
a different one. Go ahead, Tia.
No, to say there's wisdom actually for them to discover it early on, to say, no, we're going to, again, set these boundaries. I think the idea and concept and notion of setting that boundaries earlier on in life, the sooner you understand and recognize, I think more natural you apply it. Like, right?
Mhm.
Like for
and
me, I have to consciously say, I am setting a boundary.
yes. And this is an opportunity for leaders. First, I mean, to lead others, well, we first have to lead ourselves, right? Again, no matter what your area of leadership is, self-leadership will always precede team leadership. Somebody, I think it was Maxwell or somebody, said that. But boundaries are such a powerful way not only to work alive, but to provide success structures for our teams, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you might never choose to relax a boundary, but knowing when there's time to rest and when there's time to work, when there are, meeting days, for example, versus during busy seasons. Verify your season. It's a season of intensity, so we might have to flex a bit. We're all going to go home and rest hard this weekend because we know the next 2 weeks we have to go. So what I'm sharing is not like a pie in the sky. Oh, you can set a boundary and always maintain it, and everything's hunky dory, and nothing will ever change. No, but it's living and leading intentionally and working alive, and really, I think for us as leaders, um, trying to identify and practice those boundaries and helping our team do that too, so we can be progressively effective and not just like busy and crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
and that brings, Sonita, I mean, what you're sharing is just valuable information. And I just really hope that the audience is taking notes. Share this with friends who are leaders and they have teams or whatever. It's just the valuable information you give it is very general as well. It applies in all different aspects of our lives. But one of the things that I'm curious to know along your journey being, a chief encouragement officer, I love that, by the way. What have you found to be the biggest challenge
Mm.
leaders feel, leaders have? One of the main ones.
Well, I think it's this pressure to produce results while also trying to maintain, living your core values, right? You have to be pretty courageous sometimes to maybe say, hey, this is how we've built our company. These are the things we value. And if, let's say, respect for people is one of them, then we aren't going to take maybe the easy money or a quick fix to violate that value, for example, because it would mean we would um, just lay off 50% people or whatever it is. So I think, that pressure to produce results, because we're in business to produce results while living your core values, is one. But I'd like to flip that. And I think it can be a creative tension instead of a pressure, because
Okay.
so many amazing solutions arise when we view things like that. And you had another, I think, thing I see all the time that's a challenge is the ability to delegate effectively, right?
Mm,
Like,
Yes.
we can go into so many reasons why, or I tried it once, it didn't work. I'm just not good at that, or my team should know what to do. Um, it's an art. There's science to it, but it's an art. And like many things, it's practice. But I see that a lot with the leaders that just leaders in general. Like, I want to grow, or I want to give my team, but right, but. Um, and then the third one I would say is having empathy and accountability. Right? We hear a lot about emotional intelligence and compassionate leadership, and yes, I am all about empathy, but empathy without accountability is a recipe for a factory of it can be a recipe for a factory of excuses and enablement. And
mm,
accountability without empathy can be a disguise or a costume for cruelty sometimes, right?
yes.
And so it's an and. It's an and learning how to operate within that and, I think, is a challenge. And I'll just share from one of, personal example.
Mhm.
I tend to err more on the empathy side and sometimes have let the accountability slide. Um, but when you pair both, and what do I mean by accountability? I mean being clear about what you all expect together, and your unique contributions to that expectation, often that are usually measurable. So you can say, hey, did we do this? Are we on track to do this or not? Being owning your role, being if it's clear, first of all, and that's on the leader, right? I think to ultimately help clarify that, although everybody else needs to participate and take ownership. And then the third part of, accountability is, I think, accountability for your experience, right? So I'm not happy in my job, or yes, okay, maybe there's a work thing there, but maybe it's the you thing there. Like, we are the authors of our own life story. So as leaders too, like, if things are falling apart, it's my problem. It's the problem of the person looking in the mirror, even if my team might have not done something specific.
Mhm.
So just going back to that, I think learning and again practicing empathy and accountability, which joins those two things together, is just a challenge for
Mhm.
leaders, because it is
100.
a challenge.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny because I literally just made a video talking about, like, there was an article that Ben Baker had written about a recent study. 22% of people are content or happy at their jobs. I'm like, 22%. That's it.
22. That's it. Yeah.
So that means 88% of the rest of the fracking workforce hate their lives, more or less, working at that place, right? And it was a really interesting thing because I think gut reaction initially is, well, what's wrong with the corporate culture that 88% is not happy? And if you really dig in a little bit, you're right there, Sunita, is, but what can you control, right?
Right.
What is it that you're in your current role or the current company that you can affect? It could be a you problem in not every way. Let me be very clear. But if you
Right.
can
Right.
maybe make your time or swizzle your perspective, could it possibly put you into that 22%? I'm not saying everyone's happy singing kumbaya, but you're not miserable in your job, right? And that entitlement, I
100%.
think, I mean, it's just, there is a certain sense of entitlement. I blame it on the pandemic because I do think, oh, where's my tinfoil hat? I do think our multiverses have like cross streamed because this level of entitlement, because we are all working from home, we have discovered that there is a life. We can still be productive working from home. And now we want to keep that. We want to keep that freedom that we had to do our jobs, to be able to, run to the store in the middle of the workday because the kid's out of milk or whatever, and still be productive. So again, it's a boundary I think that people are now starting to put together for themselves. I did highlight Latanya, by the way. I do like her DNA. Do not admit.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
love
so
this.
clever.
it's good. See, just
I mean,
picking up on that. Oh, go ahead.
no, go, keep going, keep going. I'm not highlighting other people's comments. Go ahead, go.
No, that's great. Picking up on what you said though about the pandemic and working from home, that's amazing. And here's where leaders also have an incredible opportunity, and something I love working with leaders on is when you have a compelling vision that's good and exciting for all concerned, that can wake people up and get them to do things that push them out of their preferences, like working from home. So what do I mean by that? Imagine you had a chance to be part of, let's say, putting a man on the moon, JFK's big thing that changed not just space, but everything else, right, for us. He had this huge, compelling vision, and people didn't know how we were going to get there. But his vision was so powerful, it reached down to every person who worked at NASA, including a janitor who was interviewed on a trip he had. And they said, "Hey, what do you do here?" And he said, "Oh, I'm helping put a man on the moon." So
Yes.
whether he was sweeping or cleaning, like, the task was not as important as what he was doing. So tying this back to, are you happy in your job? We each have accountability and responsibility for our own lives. Like, are we making progress or making excuses? Somebody asked that question once. They didn't ask it to me, but I was like, oh, they're talking to me and I'm making excuses. That's a powerful question for all of us to ask ourselves. Are we making progress or are we making excuses? But going back to communicating the vision, man, I bet there are people who would give up a day or two working from home if there was a vision, they really believed it, and they saw not just like, oh, this is saving the whales, which is what I'm passionate about, or being part of a huge technological breakthrough, but this is how it impacts me. This is how I can develop, or this is the opportunity I have. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity many leaders have to get clear on the vision and keep communicating it in a way that so powerfully conveys how it's good for all concerned, because that will pull people. We're always, how do we motivate people? That's push. But vision and its relevance to you, to me, that inspires and that pulls.
Mm,
So that
Mm.
is an opportunity leaders have, no matter what the business, whether it's construction or AI or anything else, like clarifying the vision and communicating it, not just once, not just twice, but over and over again in a way that's relevant and paints that picture. So
mm,
powerful.
mm. Oh my goodness. There's so much there that you've mentioned over the last, 45 minutes that we've been chatting. And I just, it warrants a part two, I think, honestly, because there's so much to unpack, Sanita.
Be an honor.
And for me, like I said, it's also learning. We're all in a distinct journey or a different journey. However, coming back down to the core of it all, we are leaders in our own lives. And how do we start living a balanced? People throw that balance word around all the time. But as you explained, it work alive, right? How do we have a happy marriage of those two? And how do we come out sane and not putting ourselves, just killing ourselves out there, for lack of a better word. I was reading one of the main things that caught my attention. I'm really not a morning person. Okay, I am not a morning person, but you said 5 a.m. is quite like the best time.
Yeah, for me.
So yes, for you. So, and how has 5 a.m. influenced your life and your leadership
Mm.
style?
I love that. So first of all, I'm not advocating that everybody else embrace that. I'm married to a night owl, so just got to get that out there. But I have found that when I don't, see ya, when I when I forget how much I love 5 a.m. and don't continue to develop our relationship, the rest of my life is not as good. And here's why: 5 a.m. is quiet. 5 a.m. is, one of my values I mentioned is whole person success rooted in health, and that includes spiritual and emotional health. That's when I have, my quiet time, like my prayer time. I can do it at 4:30, sure, but at 7 I usually can't, right? My kids are getting up or going to school. So 5 a.m. I love the quiet, and I love the possibility, because the world is waiting to wake up, and everything feels possible. Everything is possible at any time, but for me, that's when everything feels possible. And so tapping into that practice of that emotional and spiritual fill in the tank, and then that feeling of everything's possible, that's that's part of my rejuvenation, and it also sets my focus for the day. Um, I also have to say, 5 is a special number for me. I just love 5 a.m., but I later learned in life that 5 is my favorite number, because it's the number of grace, which is kind of just
Oh,
good things
Oh,
happen to you that you may not deserve. So yeah, I embrace 5 a.m. and I really love it a lot.
mm,
I should get a T-shirt that says "I heart 5 a.m." but we can still be friends if you don't. So
you should totally do it. The shirts are in and they never go out of
I
style.
know.
They're trendy. Yes, I may have to start practicing on doing the 5 a.m. thing soon, but I just feel like I'm so tired.
Oh, Rocky, can I share
Yes.
something? I worked with this lovely client who wanted to start getting up earlier. This is not why we work together, but she's like, I really want to start getting up. Two quick tips I gave her, and she practiced them. It didn't happen overnight, but she's changed from like an 8 a.m. person to a 6:30 person. One is to set the time at night that she's going to be in bed, like in bed, not going to bed, which means turning off your phone. Like, she had to practice all those stages, but then not to try to go from being the 8 a.m. person to the 6 or the 6:30 a.m. person all at once.
Mm,
you
Mm-hmm.
know? So
Mm-hmm.
it's what happens before. We all know this, whether it's this amazing conversation you're leading with Sia, like what you guys do in the quiet allows you to show up and perform, right? And deliver the value. It's the same thing with getting up early. What we do before the fact helps us nail that. So, honor the before, and then don't try to do it too fast. Like 15 minutes early for a week. That's a win, and then celebrate that. So,
Baby steps.
Well, hey,
Yes,
here's my
yes.
excuse. Here's my excuse, kids. I don't have children. Every day, every minute is quiet time. It's just me and my partner. So it's not like, and I think, and that's not my excuse to say why I'm not a morning person. I'm just not a morning person. My body activates at like 10 o'clock at night. Now, I'm
yeah,
a night owl. My creativity just suddenly comes on, and
go
I've
go for
always
it.
just been this through that. And then, but that's the equivalent. I think that's the message is that 5 is a representation, right? It doesn't necessarily mean literally 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever. It's find that 5 a.m. time for you, I think is really what resonates with me, because when you have that moment and you know that's your moment, then lean into it, right? I'm
Do
really
it.
loving. I mean, I can't take notes. I'm gonna have to listen to this because Sonita, you are so hitting so many great points. And by
Oh,
the way, everyone in the chat is basically acknowledging that as well. So thank you, chat group here. Everyone's very active talking, by the way.
yeah.
And by the
Thanks
way,
for being
we
here.
have we're at 17 scans of the QR code. So we're almost at 20 people scanning to
Oh,
follow up
thanks,
with you.
guys.
Everyone,
Yeah,
please
please
keep
do.
going, guys.
Yeah, I'd love to chat with you too on LinkedIn. So I am working up my habit of being as amazing communicators as Sia and Rocky are, but connect me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you. Hey,
Is
Sia, just
That's
back
the
to
best.
what you said. Oh, I'm sorry, Rocky. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the best way for people to get a hold of you, right?
Yeah,
Through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn for
Yes.
sure, for sure.
Awesome. Yes.
Sia, what you said, 10 p.m. is like when your creativity comes alive. So my kind of loving challenge to you is, are you protecting that time and
Yeah.
practicing that 10 p.m. for you, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
100%. And it is not rocket science. It's discipline. It's
Practice.
consistency. It's practice. It's not easy. And I think, I mean, just you saying it to me, again, if you make things intentional, you will be doing
Yeah.
it. You will do it more habitually when you lead a life of more intention. And if it's a sticky note, which I'm going to have to do, I think, and that's a Gen X thing to do, it's to remind
Oh
yourself.
my gosh.
It's a millennial thing too, girl. It's
No,
not
I'm
just Gen X.
telling you, I love sticky notes. 3M, I'm gonna have to, I don't know, I'm gonna have to get an I love 3M shirt too, which, invented the sticky note, because
Yes.
I would not be anywhere without these sticky notes.
Well, there's something about actually feeling it, right? So it's like you're writing it down, is visual, but you actually feel it, and then it's palpable. For me, that I always love that
And
about sticky notes
Sharpies.
and
Yes.
Sharpies.
And Sharpies. I love these two things.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
it's
that's too funny.
amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, I know we're running out of time, and like we can have another 3-hour conversation, Sonita, because you have so much to give and deliver, and just your wisdom. Oh my gosh, it's unmatched. I always, wanted to let you know, but the voice. Have you ever thought about doing audiobooks, or your
I
own
would I
audio
would love
something?
to. I would love to. I haven't focused or connected with the right people to do it yet, but I would love to. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think you would blow it out of the water with that, and
I've
just the way you capture people's attentions.
Thank
Seriously.
you.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
you literally have that ASMR voice, like literally, like it's soothing. It's almost like I've gotten to the habit of like listening to like noise, like at night to kind of just calm
Yes.
my brain down. Your voice is like one of those. I'm not saying your voice puts me to sleep, lady, but what I
I
am going
can
to say
well,
is,
I'm laughing because I'd say I'd offer to put you to sleep, Sia, but I'm like, you go to bed after me, so that won't work.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I wouldn't. Oh
But you
my
know what? A
goodness.
recorded voice of yours, is just like saying a couple breathe deeply. Like I would listen to you and be like breathing exercises or. Now, granted, I'm sure
Yes.
your children and your husband doesn't agree, but I'm just saying, or don't agree. Learn to speak English. But I just like your words of wisdom. You've got such a great way of like phrasing things that to me is like, it's just again, what's that called when you can remember phrases and all that? Like, it's not an anagram. What's that called? Like alive. Like,
The acronym.
yeah. Is it accurate? I don't know. But there's like sayings when it's like, I don't know. I'm digressing. I'm trying to like multitask and talk to you at the same time. You guys, everyone, please, please, please scan
Scan. Mhm.
QR code here. I'm
Yeah, I'd
gonna
love to
remove my
chat.
face. So
Hit
that
me up
I
on
can-
LinkedIn and let's chat. It would be
I
my honor.
It would be amazing. And like I said, y'all, please connect with Sonita. She has so much wisdom to just share with the world and so many teams to help, so many leaders to help. And this is one of the aspects that I love about you, how you're just so giving. But before we close, I just definitely wanted to give you an opportunity. If you were to share, I would say two golden nuggets before you leave that it could be for leaders, it could be in general. What would you share with us? So, Anita, more than you already shared, but yes.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. So this is really personal. And I would say the things that, if there's anything that consistently irritates you or you're resisting, it's probably the clue to your next breakthrough. So that's
Ooh,
number one. Real
okay.
practical example. I'm working to improve some stuff in my business with a small group, and I hid from them for a week and a half, and I'm like, "What is wrong with me?" And it's because I couldn't finish an assignment. Obvious, lean in, ask them for help. But that it took me like a week and a half to do that, and I was resisting, and I realized I'm like, "Wow, that's a new level of humility that I need to lean into quicker." And once I did that, I'm making so much progress. So anyway, the things that continue to irritate you or that you're resisting may be the key to your next breakthrough. And then the second thing is just don't wait to embrace the power of rest and recovery. Don't, and I'll say, I would challenge you. Don't say, I don't have time for this. Let me challenge you to consider you don't have time not to. It's not just a nice to have, it's a must to have for your well-being. But research and evidence shows that it's also the most effective way to actually produce impact and results. Effective, not busy. Purposely productive, not busy. So those two things.
Purposely productive and not busy. And see, that's the thing that we struggle so, so much to do is being able to be creative because of lack of what we don't have that we should have.
That's
It's
right.
it, it's a right for us to be able to rest and recover. It's not a non-negotiable, and I keep saying that. So I'm repeating it to myself because I have to learn how to apply it on a daily basis. But having said that, oh my goodness, Sonita, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this opportunity to learn more from you, to gain so much knowledge. The fact that we're human and we feel things. We're not robots, and so we have to find a way to be able to lead, but still not kill ourselves, but live,
Yes.
be alive.
Yes. Yes.
So
Lead alive.
lead a life. I love that. I love that. I appreciate it. But anyhow, guys in the audience, please take notes. Share this episode with all your friends and all those individuals who definitely value the information given here. With that said, I just wanted to thank everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rocky and Sia. You're amazing. Thanks for doing what you
Cheers.
do. Both.
All right. Oh,
Thank you,
she's
thank you. But we
muted.
gotta
Oh.
give we gotta give our sponsor a shout out, lady.
Yes,
Yes.
please. Okay, and then we'll definitely wrap it up. Thank you.
And then we'll wrap it up. Okay, let me go and upload because we gotta give it, girl.
Falling asleep with your head in the wrong position is a pain in the neck. You deserve Tausi Comfort for head, neck, and back support. Go to tausibrands.com and get your comfort on.
Okay. Why am I
Get your comfort on.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
it. Shout out to
comfort?
Tausi.
Oh wait, hold
Welcome
on a second.
to the
Sorry, guys. Hold on. I messed it up
Connection
here.
Corner.
We had such a good show going on, and of course I have to mess it up.
It's not
Where are we
mess
going
up.
here? It's not
I
messing
love
up.
it
I'm not.
though.
Here we go. Let me just get rid of this thing here.
Shout out Janice Shokrian with Tausi. I love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm
Thank
traveling
you,
with my
Tausi.
yes. I love it. All right.
All right, guys. Bye-bye. I'm over it.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and follow us for the